A spectre is haunting online FPS games. It's called Zim. In fact, it's so popular that people use the name of this device like a verb now. That guy's zimming. You get it.
Oh, Caleb on Zim! Caleb on Zim! No. No. That doesn't mean he's Zim. Hold up. He might just be running a fast sense.
These small devices have caused big problems for the competitive communities in many console FPS games.
Every single match is like, oh, like this next one, I'm probably going to face a mouse and keyboard user. And then you see them flicking around, and you're like, oh, of course, it's a mouse and keyboard user.
But is this cheating, or is it really a case of adapt? Or adapter?
Well, everybody else does it, so why would I not do it? Now, like when people say that to me, like for like the reasoning on why they use Zim, I'm like no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just get better on a controller. Like, you're just adding on to the problem.
And with so many of them already out there, do console developers even have a fighting chance against these things? Before we get into today's topic, be sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that notification bell. Also, be sure to check out our new merch drop over at shop.thescore.com. All right, so a little something called Zim, and devices similar to it, has surged in popularity over the past year or so, stirring up some controversy along the way. If this is the first time you've heard about this, let me explain. Physically, these are converters or adapters that offer various functionalities, and if you've ever owned a fight stick or other specialized peripherals, you're familiar with the basic idea. This can be an external dongle thing, or an internal switch, or even a custom PCB that has all the connections you need to connect to different systems. Now, Zim and devices like it are essentially bigger versions of these dongles, but what kind of functionality are people trying to get with these things like Zim? Well, we don't have manufacturer data, and even if we did, I wouldn't trust it. You could do a lot of things with a Zim, but the most common use is plugging in your mouse and keyboard into console games, where that isn't explicitly allowed. Now, why are people doing things like this in the first place? Well, it's so they can get better results in games like Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch.
The main reason why people use mouse and keyboard on console is because there's no aim assist in Siege. So aiming with a controller is very hard. If you have mouse and keyboard, it's just going to be easier. It's just a fact of life.
You have to play differently because like they're just gonna have so much better aim than you. Like you're gonna verse people who like you can easily compete with the Zims 100% because most of them who use them are not smart by any means. So if you have like a brain to positioning and game sense, you'll win 100%. Like it's not like it's stopping you from, at all ranking up.
So sure, aiming with the mouse is gonna be better, but in some games you also get aim assist, and that's where this gets really out of hand. With that said, let's throw it over to Colten to talk about how these things work and what companies are doing about it.
And now, the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
Thanks, Seb. Sorry, I'm a little out of sorts. Normally I'd have a quip for Dimitri here, but I can't do that to Seb. He's a nice guy. Well, many developers hadn't figured out what to do about Zim and hadn't even acknowledged it as a problem until this year. In March 2023, Ubisoft announced Mousetrap, a program they developed to help identify Zim users and then lightly troll them, not ban them. Activision announced in April that Ricochet anti-cheat would target Zim-like devices. And Blizzard hinted at some vague changes to Overwatch 2 that were still pending as of September. But these pesky adapters have a far longer history than these measures would have you believe. Their big moment actually happened around the time Dr. Lupo let the world know exactly what a Zim meant for Destiny 2 on PC. But how did we get here? First, I think it's important to note that the reason Zim is so popular is that, well, mouse and keyboard is the absolute king of inputs for FPS. There are some games, like Apex Legends, where aim assist for controller players gives them a fighting chance against mouse and keyboard purists. And if anyone was doubting the strength of what the community has dubbed Roller, Apex esports superstar Imperial Hal already showed us what it was capable of. He switched from mouse and keyboard to controller, and he won a f***ing championship.
So I decided to switch to controller. And it's the first LAN I played on controller, and I got MVP, won the LAN, so I feel like I took a big risk playing controller and swapping to something that I haven't played in for a while, and it all paid off.
There are even sickos out there like Royal Penguin, who you saw earlier in this video, who play controller on PC of their own free will.
So for me, it's very different. So like I started off on console and then I went to PC. I do controller PC. So I hit controller PC champion. I'm voluntarily versing mouse and keyboards.
For us mere mortals, though, without aggressive aim assist, it starts to look pretty grim for thumbsticks when you pit them against a mouse. And there's pretty good reason for that. A long time ago, psychologists were laying the groundwork for deciding how humans, particularly lay people, could best interact with computers. The most common strategy that emerged is something generally called the pointing device, and its most common form on the PC today is, you guessed it, a mouse. We take mice for granted now, but there are still other options. Ultimately, a proposed model for computer-human interaction called Fitts Law seemed to best express the problem.
And basically what it says is the difficulty of a movement is related to the size of the target you want to hit, as well as the distance you have to travel to hit it. So therefore, performance in this sense is related to how fast you can perform that movement.
The mouse has many other advantages as well, like the fact that it just holds itself up and easily stays stationary. But ultimately, it's precise, works well in tandem with the multitude of human joints, and doesn't obstruct the screen. So it's no wonder that people would want access to mouse and keyboard in a world where everyone else is flicking sticks.
In gunfights, one-on-one gunfights, like, you have to have better positioning than them because they're just gonna have better aim than you. Like, you're using 2 analog sticks and they're using their entire arm.
Now, in nearly every case, Zim and other adapters aren't supported by the companies that develop these games, but they're still everywhere. This has given rise to what is essentially a new front in the war on cheating, and one where not every developer seems eager to fight. Oh, and by the way, some of these adapters control your recoil for you, which is surely considered cheating even without a mouse, right?
I think on Zim, so here's the biggest thing with Zim, right? So the Zim Matrix came out. So basically what that is it's a Zim, but it also is a Cronus, which the Cronus is a no recoil mod. So what people do, it's built in. So they have a mouse and keyboard, and they have a Cronus mod all in one.
So these things are out there. They are almost overwhelmingly used to give people access to a mouse when they shouldn't have it, and, as developers have started to prove, you can absolutely detect them. Whether it's possible for those devs to actually start doing anything about it, well, I'll hand it back to Seb for that.
And that was the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
So, without the accuracy of mouse and keyboard, gamepad tracking understandably needs and gets a bit of help from the game. And it seems like there are a lot of people happy with the amount that's there.
Since mouse and keyboard has a larger amount of things that they can do, it means that controller is a worse input and aim assist should be left alone.
So when it comes to these adapters, the main question right now is whether or not these things are really cheating. For the communities around these games, and in many cases, the developers, the answer is pretty clearly yes.
It almost feels like a slap in the face for creators in the community when there's like, we do so much to try to build this up and they don't care to protect 75% of the community from cheaters.
Now, whatever excuses Zimmers might have, it's clear that using a mouse is an advantage. Since a lot of these devices have built-in recoil compensation too, it's even harder to defend. If it's doing something automatically so you don't have to, that's an easy thumbs down. But the people who market these devices do have a few arguments in their defense. Firstly, they claim that these devices don't break Xbox or PlayStation TOS, which might technically be correct, but according to the developers of the titles played on those systems, that's not necessarily the case for the games themselves. Then there's the general sales pitch, letting players excel with the input devices that suit them best, which is an admirable sentiment. Ubisoft notably committed to working with players with disability requirements by asking them to contact the devs via QR code if banned. But clearly any competitive environment needs limits of some kind. I can't just bring my giant spinbot headlocking I win button to a tournament just because it suits me best. In situations where the game isn't on PC and the developer expressly allowed it, like Destiny in Dr. Lupo's case, there's really not much to say. It's allowed. But that excuse is less and less relevant in new games. Call of Duty on PS5 now supports mouse and keyboard natively without a Zim, and without the aim assist. Fortnite does too. Another argument you see in defense of Zim sometimes is that using it is like using a flight stick or driving wheel. It's helping you enjoy the game the way it's meant to be played. But the way a game is meant to be played in the sense of what is permitted is again up to the developer.
But on Rainbow Six Siege, they don't want to allow you to use it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's their game. Like, it's brain dead.
But even as more people understand what Zims are capable of, they won't actually get you banned, unlike more conventional cheating methods.
I think that they should have just straight off the bat gone with a ban. I know that would suck to lose a big portion of your player base, but that would bring back more people who would be like, oh, I stopped playing Siege because mouse and keyboard was going crazy. I never wanted to play against that.
In fact, a Siege content creator that recently received an in-game charm, a prestigious award, has received gameplay penalties from the mousetrap system on stream. Between that and the kid gloves in terms of punishment, what sort of message is being sent here even if Ubisoft calls it cheating?
It's like, okay, so we're gonna give a charm to somebody who's on a mouse and keyboard. And it's not like it's like, oh, he's on a mouse and keyboard, like they're just saying that. The guy has literally been caught. Like, there's a clip of him getting mousetrapped.
We can obviously debate on how much responsibility these devs have, but there's no question that these devices are having a real impact on their scenes.
They also have to realize that if you were to ban Zims, so many people would come back, because there are so many people that are uninterested in playing the game because of all the Zims, especially the casual scene.
Zim and other adapters are so common now, they're reshaping a lot of games. I mentioned that people say Zimming, but it's more than just language. Handcams are increasingly common in console tournaments because these devices are so easy to get. But in a lot of communities, this battle is really just beginning.
So then I just report it to the Ubisoft devs and I just say, hey, these are like 5 to 6 different methods that are being used right now. And then I tell them the method and they try and patch it. Like that's the goal at least.
And hey, maybe one day Ubisoft or another developer will come in and say, hey, stop using this or face actual bans. But honestly, we're not counting on it.
I think if it does happen, it won't be for a while because in their eyes, they're seeing success with Mousetrap, right? And realistically speaking, there is some success with Mousetrap. So in their eyes, they're like, okay, well, we've put all this time into Mousetrap.
Until that day comes though, we had to let the guys give their parting words to any Zimmers who made it to the end.
It's not fair, just use a controller. No one's impressed.
If they were on a controller, they would not even be in the same lobby as me, nor all the other controller champions, because I'm not the best in the world, but I'm at the top. And it's like, if they were to use a controller, they would not be in my lobbies, as well as I would also say to them to just go to PC.
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and ring the notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.